Hello everyone, I'm Josh Blevins, and today we're going to be looking at taking a voltage measurement using a voltmeter. So we can use a voltmeter to take voltage measurements on pretty much any electrical equipment. Today we're just going to be using a standard 120 volt outlet that we'll be looking at. But the voltage measurement's important for a few things. We can either use it just to verify that we have the correct voltage at the equipment to make sure that the equipment operates properly. We can also use it for troubleshooting and repairs if we're having problems with an electrical circuit. And then also if we have to work on a piece of electrical equipment or a circuit, we can use it to verify what we call absence of voltage, which basically is just a de-energized state, so we can safely work on the equipment or circuit and make repairs. For the test that we're going to do today, we'll need a few items. First of all, we'll need a voltmeter. In this case, we're using an Ideal brand voltmeter. It's an AC clamp meter. It comes with the test leads here that you can see, and those voltmeter can be purchased at pretty much any electrical distributor, most hardware stores. This particular brand will cost around $90. There's all kinds of different brands. It doesn't have to be this particular brand or this meter. And no matter what meter you buy, it should come with an operator or user manual. If it doesn't, you can typically go to the manufacturer's website and download that. So a lot of the safety tips that we'll give you today and the how-tos comes out of that manual. You'll want to reference that prior to using the meter. And then also we'll be using for some PPE, some personal protective equipment. We'll be using a pair of safety glasses today that are ANSI Z78 rated. Basically that just means they're impact rated safety glasses, so that's pretty much industry standard minimum. And then also we got a pair of leather gloves that we'll use when performing the test. And then the last thing you'll need is an accessible 120 volt outlet, as you can see here. So the first thing that we want to do before we do anything is the manufacturer recommends that we inspect our meter. So in inspecting the meter, we're going to inspect the housing, the casing, all the way around, make sure the covers are securely in place. We're looking for any kind of defects, cracks, anything visual that we can see. Again, this is just a thorough visual inspection of the meter to make sure all the parts and pieces are look and feel the way they should, and we don't have any concerns there. Secondly, not just the meter, we want to take a look at the test leads. Again, these are provided by the manufacturer. They typically always come with the meter when you purchase it. If you do happen to replace these, the manufacturer wants to ensure that you replace them with a manufacturer approved set of test leads that match this meter. So when we're inspecting these, we're going through and looking for any types of cracks in the insulation on the conductors, the leads themselves. The connections, we want to make sure the connectors are in good shape, nothing cracked, no exposed metal parts, no corrosion in the connection points. And then the probes themselves, again, a thorough inspection to make sure there's no cracks, no breaks in the insulation, and to make sure they're in good shape. We have our what we call finger guards here. This keeps us from getting any closer to these test probes while we're taking the test. So go through and inspect these. And then thirdly, before we get started, we want to put on our PPE before we do the test. So we're going to put on our safety glasses, and then we want to put on our leather gloves. Now again, this is just what I would recommend as minimum PPE. For this type of test, there actually is no shock protection PPE required because of the level of protection or the level of voltage that we're going to be looking at and testing. So the recommended shock protection for that is just simply avoid contact. Basically don't touch the tips of the meter while we're inserting it into the outlet. But for our purposes, I typically use a minimum PPE of safety glasses and leather gloves. So once we have our PPE on properly, we're going to connect the test leads to the meter. So we'll take our test leads, and they are color coded. We're testing an AC circuit, so we do want to use the color code when attaching them to the meter. It's not going to be necessarily important on the test where we place them in the receptacle, the outlet. But when we want to connect these, the manufacturer is going to tell us to connect what they call the common lead, which is the black lead first. So we'll just plug that in. And then we're going to plug what they call the live lead, or the red lead, into that port. So now we have the leads connected. The next thing we want to do is select the proper setting. And in this case, we're testing an AC voltage. So we're going to select the AC voltage option here, which will turn our meter on. It's the V with an AC sine wave next to it, as you can see there. And then we're going to insert the test probes into the circuit. And so when we do that again, we want to use we're going to use the common black lead and insert in what we call the ungrounded, or the neutral, of the receptacle, which is this right here. So we'll insert that lead first, and then we'll insert our live lead into the ungrounded, or the hot side. And you can see we get a beep here. That means we have voltage above 30 volts. That's what this meter is set up for. So once we do that, we can obtain the voltage reading off of the display. And this is a 120 volt outlet, so we're looking for something around 120 volts. And typically anything within 3 to 5% is acceptable. So this would be an acceptable voltage reading for this circuit. Now if this was a de-energized circuit, we would be looking for something at or near 0 on our meter if we're verifying that it's de-energized. So then we're going to remove our test leads, and we're going to do it in the opposite order that we put them in. So we want to go live lead, ungrounded, or the hot wire first, and then we're going to remove the grounded or neutral wire test lead second. And then we want to make sure and shut our meter off. Place it in the off position. We remove our test leads again. We want to do this in a reverse order, so we'll take the live lead out and then take the common lead out, and then we'll properly store this per manufacturer's per their recommendations. So that is how you take a voltage reading on a 120 volt outlet. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was gave you some tips and knowledge on how to properly use a voltmeter. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a great day.